Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about a recent statement by President Zelensky, who said that of the equipment promised for the formation of 14 new brigades, Ukraine did not receive enough to equip even 4. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. When Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, many predicted a quick and crushing Russian victory. Based on a very logical criterion, the size of Russian military power compared to Ukraine. Despite having lost much of the military power it had during the Soviet Union, Russia has always remained a great and very powerful military power, standing out in areas such as the Air Force, its armored force with the largest fleet of combat vehicles in the world, and also in its navy, with dozens of vessels armed with multiple missile launchers and a very versatile fleet of diesel-electric and nuclear-powered submarines. And in addition to all this equipment, Russia still had, at the time of the invasion, an estimated contingent of around 1 million soldiers on active duty. In other words, in February 2022, Russia was at least 7 or 8 times more powerful militarily than Ukraine. And so, based on this quick analysis, many deduced that the Russian victory was guaranteed, and that it was only a matter of time before Vladimir Putin marched on Kiev, replacing Zelensky with a pro-Russian politician willing to meet all of the Kremlin's demands. But as we know very well, the war in Ukraine has already been going on for more than 2.5 years. And although the Russians are making some advances in sectors of Donetsk, especially the city of Pokrovsk, the Ukrainians are holding back other Russian attempts to advance and are even invading and advancing inside Russia, in the Kursk Oblast. This shows that, despite Russia's enormous and brutal numerical and qualitative advantage at the beginning of the invasion, today, Ukrainians and Russians are very evenly matched, a balance that prevents decisive moves by either side, generating a stalemate and a war of attrition that is terribly costly for both sides. But how did Ukraine, which as I mentioned was 7 or 8 times smaller than Russia, manage to balance the conflict so much? The main factor in the first days and weeks was the Ukrainian spirit to defend itself. Even in the face of a gigantic attack with 200,000 soldiers invading from all sides, the Ukrainian spirit to defend itself from aggression was not destroyed, giving time for the second factor to materialize: economic and military aid from Ukraine's allies. If it were not, first, for Ukraine's perseverance and will to defend itself from a brutal Russian attack, and second, for the monumental aid received from its allies, the war would not have been balanced and Vladimir Putin would have conquered Ukraine and annexed the territories he so desires long ago. This also proves that this war is, in essence, a proxy conflict with countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Poland and Germany arming and financing Ukraine, not only to defend a nation from unjust and illegal aggression, but also to indirectly confront Russia, keeping Russian attention and military force focused on Ukraine to prevent Putin from acting against Western interests in other areas of the world. This puts Ukraine in a curious situation, in which they are both comfortable and very uncomfortable at the same time. Ukrainians are comfortable in the sense that they do not have to worry about producing all the ammunition and weapons they use to defend themselves. But they are also uncomfortable because this leaves them totally dependent on foreign aid. A small change in international aid policy is enough to affect the Ukrainian front in a very negative way. Which is, in fact, what happened between October 2023 and February 2024 in Avdiivka. At that time, the US Congress and Senate were in a real tug-of-war to approve a $61 billion package for Ukraine. A package that should have been approved in October 2023, but was only approved in March 2024. With all the delay in approving this package, Ukraine was prevented from receiving the weapons and ammunition it so desperately needs. This allowed Russia to advance and conquer Avdiivka, in a battle that lasted from October 2023 to February 2024, precisely during the impasse period for the approval of the aid package for Ukraine. What happened in Avdiivka demonstrates how much Ukraine depends on the United States and other Western allies to guarantee its defense. This was once again evident in a recent interview given by President Zelensky to CNN, in which he said that in meetings held throughout 2023 and 2024, Ukraine's main allies promised to urgently send vehicles, weapons, equipment and ammunition sufficient to arm 14 brigades. However, so far, Ukraine has not received enough to even arm 4 brigades. According to President Zelensky, the pace of deliveries is so low that they are only enough to replace the losses of the brigades currently in operation. But it is impractical for the composition of new units, as was agreed in the recent past. In the interview, Zelensky also said that the impasse between the US Congress and Senate over the release of the $61 billion package forced the Ukrainians to use everything they had in stock to prevent further Russian advances along the front line. In other words, according to Zelensky, at this point, Ukraine is only receiving enough to replace its losses, with very little left over to replenish its stockpiles and, just as importantly, to form new units. As you can well imagine, this situation leaves Ukraine in a tremendously vulnerable position. Between October 2023 and March 2024, during the so-called Republican blockade on the release of the $61 billion package, the Ukrainians were lucky to have a really large stockpile of weapons and ammunition. But now, if another impasse like that arises, the Ukrainians don't even have any stockpiles. And if we consider that the presidential elections are coming up and that Donald Trump, who advocates sending aid to Ukraine, could win, we see how desperate the current situation in Ukraine is. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bells so you don't miss any news.